All right, how's everybody doing? This is World History, and today's video is going to be about the study guide. And you guys have 4 pages of terms to review. I went ahead and printed the lines for you in the packet, and really, we're going to be going through just a few of these terms, but I'm going to show you how to cover them completely. That's really the trick, you can take shortcuts. You can go to Google, you can go to Wiki, and look up these definitions, but it's not going to really give you the full study that you need. That's why many of you who don't add to your notes in the classroom lessons, you find the tests difficult because you're not properly reviewing. So I want to take some time. You are going to have a World War II test when we come back to school. Many of you have probably already heard that this, that's going to be extended, right? So we're coming back Monday, May the 4th, and that is going to extend our assignment calendar. So I'll be pushing out another one of those for you, and we're also going to be doing some Zoom calls. Okay, so my plan right now, unless it changes, but my plan right now is to meet every Monday. First period is at 9 a.m. Second period would be AP. You guys are at 1 p.m. Fourth period World History would be at 10 a.m. on Monday, and sixth period World History would be at 11 a.m. So that'll give me the morning to do all of my world history classes and the afternoon to do both of my AP classes. So let's get into the study guide and kind of review some of this. So when we look at the study guide, all right, the first term, I wanted to take the first term, and you've got Anschluss. And we talked about this word. It's a German word. And we talked about it when we did Hitler's lesson. At the very end of Hitler's lesson, okay, Hitler uses this as a type of propaganda to avoid, the perception that he's a bully. He does want to take land. He is going to violate the Treaty of Versailles. He is rearming Germany. He is drumming up a lot of nationalism and even radical nationalism. And this type of nationalism calls for national unity. And so they're going to be looking to extend the German land over here in the Rhineland. We talked about that. And then now in Austria. So we have this word Anschluss. And the simple definition that we have for Anschluss is Germany's union or annexation of Austria. Like their union with Austria, their annexation of Austria. To annex means to add to or be a part, to add to be a part of. Okay? Always the win, right? When you're going through these terms, you could stop with that 5-word, definition, but you really need to know when this happened. Did it happen before the war, during the war? It gives us an insight into, what the situation was that this took place under. Okay, I used the word nationalism. We talked about, when you talk about Anschluss, it is a type of propaganda. Hitler wanted to be able to invade Austria, to annex it and add it to German land without seeming like a bully. He did not want to invite opposition, certainly from Austrians, but he was more concerned with the Allies, Britain and France. He did not want them to get involved. He wanted them to stay out of it. So he gets this idea of this union with Germany and the Germans living in Austria as a union, that this is going to be a good idea. Anschluss, if you're continuing on, with extending, you really need 2 lines of material with each of these words to really understand them. Anschluss is connected with another German word called Lebensraum. We talked about Lebensraum when we talked about the Rhineland. And Lebensraum in German means living space. So again, propaganda, right? Also connected with the Munich Agreement, because not only is, Hitler, he's not going to stop. He's not going to stop at Austria. He's going to begin to move towards Czechoslovakia here. And at first, this area right along the border called the Sudetenland is going to be his target. And he's going to get an agreement, a signed agreement with Britain and France, that they're going to stay out of his way. And Britain and France sell out their friends and allow Hitler to take the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia. And then, of course, he's going to take the rest of it. Okay. The Allies, you can't talk about Anschluss, you can't talk about appeasement or the Munich Agreement without talking about the Allies. Who are the Allies? Britain and France. And Britain and France did not oppose Hitler's actions here. So you really see through all of these bullet points that you need to extend these vocabulary words to really understand them. I want you to go in depth. Okay, I want you to go past just that first idea, that first definition, if you will, and I want you to get into the explanation of what these terms are and how we apply them. Okay, so let's go on to the next one here. Okay, we're going to skip down to collaborator. A collaborator is a person who cooperates traitorously with an enemy. So again, you could take that definition. I took it right from Google, right? Because collaborator is not specifically in your reading. But I'm going to extend because we have to apply it to World War II. Collaborator is mostly applied to the French who helped the Nazis, right? Collaborated with the Nazis during their time of occupation, okay? After the war, something that you need to know, and you definitely need to write this down, is once France was liberated from the Allies, when Britain and the United States attacked the Nazis in France and drove the German army out, the French people really turned on these traitors that were living in their society. A lot of them were women, and they became collaborators because they feared being raped, they feared persecution, they feared being jailed or even being killed by German soldiers. And so they became collaborators with the Nazis. But once France was liberated and the Allies were there and the German army left, they became targets of a lot of hatred, and it was very unfortunate, what happened to them. They were marked. These women, a lot of them, their heads were shaved. Some of them were even beaten up. A few of them were even killed if they, were put on trial and found that their actions, were, traitorous, basically, to their country, if they committed treason against France. So in a few instances, they were killed for collaborating with the Nazis. The opposite of a collaborator is a partisan. Now, this word partisan, again, you won't find it in your textbook, so I'm giving it to you here. It's the opposite of a collaborator. This is a member of an armed group fighting against an occupying force. And in World War II, we see some examples of this. The Russians, there were partisan Russians that fought against the Nazis. There were Jews that fought against the Nazis, and many Eastern Europeans fought against the occupying German army in their areas. They were not, this part is really crucial right here, write it down, they were not part of a recognized national army. So these guys fought on their own, and they gathered weapons. A lot of times they lived in the forest or just somewhere on the countryside, off the grid, out away from the city, and the large occupying forces, and they would organize these attacks on the German army, right? They're, oppressors. They're the people that were occupying their nation. So they would blow up rail lines, or they would attack supply trains, or they would attack soldiers, right? Or steal, war supply. and they fought against the German army, but they were not part of a recognized national army themselves. Okay? Continuing, oh, I wanted to show you this. A partisan, there's a fantastic movie with Daniel Craig called Defiance, and it's about a group of Jewish partisans that fought against Germany, the German military. So it is rated R. It's action drama history. It came out in 2009. It's got Daniel Craig in it, the guy that plays James Bond. And it's the Jewish brothers in Nazi-occupied Eastern Europe escape into the Belarusian forest, where they join Russian resistant fighters and endeavor to build a village in order to protect themselves and about 1,000 Jewish non-combatants. So this is a fantastic movie if you want to know what the life of a partisan was like and what they actually did. This movie is on Netflix, so you can find it. It is R, so just double check that it's going to be okay to play in your house with everybody home. So maybe it's something that you watch in the evening when your little brothers and sisters are asleep. Okay. So the Axis powers. Let's talk. I think it's on page 2 of the study guide. Both the Axis and the Allied powers. We're going to cover these real quick. Oftentimes, the Axis powers are known as the aggressors. Right? We have Hitler. We have Emperor Hirohito. We have Benito Mussolini, and this tripartite pact that we talked about really makes up the Axis power: Germany, Japan, and Italy. And originally, that included Joseph Stalin and the Soviet Union, but as we know, Hitler is going to turn on Stalin and end up invading the Soviet Union in 1941 after the war starts. And so that means Stalin's going to switch sides, and he's going to come to the side of the Allied powers. In fact, you can see Stalin right here on the far right hand of this photograph. This photograph was taken at the Yalta Conference in February of 45. So just a few months before the war is going to end, we have Churchill, we have Franklin Roosevelt, our president of the United States, and of course Joseph Stalin. So Allied powers: UK with Winston Churchill, he's the prime minister. Roosevelt, president of the United States, and then of course Joseph Stalin is the leader of the Soviet Union. A couple other noted Allied powers: we teamed up with the Free French, not Vichy France. Those were the ones that were collaborators with the Nazi government. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But also the Republic of China, and we're going to talk a little bit about China too. And China is going to become really important after the war ends. Okay? So those are the terms that I wanted to go over today. We are going to have a Zoom call on Monday, so I will see you at either 9, 10, or 11 a.m. on Monday. I hope you can tune in. I will be videoing the Zoom call so that if for some reason you can't make it, I will post a video on Classroom so you can see what we did. But we are at 13 minutes right now, so I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. I miss you a lot. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to contact me either through Remind or shoot me an email. All right? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.